Hello, Happy New Year, and it's slightly belated Happy New Year because it's about 2 weeks into January now anyway, but I wanted to give a bit of an update as to, obviously, that video I made at the end of 2022 where I talked about, my not having friends, and I kind of opened up a little bit there and shared my story, and I wanted to share a bit of a kind of update and where I want to go in 2023, kind of address that kind of rut I was in at the end of the year. And first and foremost, I thought I'd just say I'm actually quite pleasantly surprised with how many people have watched my first video. I know it's only got about 100 views on it, but I was surprised at even that. I was surprised that many people would watch the video. I'm not sure everybody's watched it all the way through, but I know a couple of comments did say that people have done that, and obviously I'm truly grateful to you guys for listening, and hopefully we all got something out of that. I got something because I was able to vent. Some of you vented via the comments as well, which was good, and hopefully that helped you guys out, being able to come and just get it out. And that's an important thing, that you're able to acknowledge where you are before you sort of start to move forward. So one question I'm going to answer today then is, have I made a New Year's resolution to kind of tackle this friends thing? And the answer is no, because I don't believe in making New Year's resolutions to fix things nowadays. I mean, lots of people make New Year's resolutions because they feel they need to do something because somebody else wants them to do it, or, everybody else is doing it, so I might as well do it. and this year I said to myself, I'm not going to make a New Year's resolution. I'm just going to make a little bit of a pledge to myself. And I actually started doing this just before Christmas, just after I made that video that I put up about my lack of friends issue. So I thought I'd just expand on maybe a conversation I've had with a couple of people in the comments, maybe just to share what I'm kind of doing at a high level, and then maybe some tips as to how this might be able to help you feel better in yourselves. And that's kind of my main focus at the moment. And then I kind of feel that if I feel better in myself, well, then the friendships thing will be easier to deal with as you go through the process. So the kind of pledge I made to myself then for 2023, more than anything else, is to love myself more. And that's a very, very vague, but I'll explain it in a bit more detail, aim. But I think it's also quite something I really need to focus on quite a lot. I think I deserve that love a bit more. And it's love I've not shown myself in years. I've tended to be very critical of myself because of all these experiences that I shared in my first video, where I said, and I spent a lot of time saying, oh, I'm not good enough, or, maybe I'm too boring, or maybe I'm not interesting enough for people. There were some examples of some of the comments I'd said towards the end of that video. And this kind of self-love journey is part of addressing that. Some of those beliefs, particularly, that I'd said were not interesting enough, for example. And so I wanted to, so that's kind of my aim for 2023. And there's kind of three main tips, I'd say, that I'm applying as part of that, to kind of help with that. And so the first sort of tip, dare I say, is not being overly concerned about what other people think. And this is particularly comes from a comment where I think somebody said, oh, I started doing this to look cool, for example. And I kind of completely understand that perspective, why you would do that. And I get, it's a natural thing to do, to try and win over a bit of, a bit of kind of favour with other friends, is try to look cool. And that's maybe revolves back to times when I've done that during school myself, tried to, as I befriend the bullies, as I said, to look cool, and, didn't get me anywhere. So that'd be my first tip, number one, is don't worry about what other people think too much. Worry about what you think about yourself, and focus on your feelings about yourself. And that's really where the self-love bit comes in, is just really believing that you are good enough. And I'll come on to this in point 2 now. So kind of tip number 2 is finding that way of showing yourself some love. And that's... there's a lot of ways you can do that. There's practical ways and there's more spiritual ways you can do it. I'm kind of doing a combination of the two. So in terms of the more spiritual ways at a kind of basic level, there's actually 2 books I'm reading. But, you don't have to read these, but they are suggestions or maybe Google searches. So there's one book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. and there's another one called Mirror Work by Louise Hay. So the things about these books is that they actually revolve around you basically standing in front of a mirror, having this kind of loop going on saying, I love myself, I love myself, I love myself. And that's basically what Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kamal Ravikant says. And then if you look at Louise Hay's book about mirror work, well, that kind of reflects on similar things, though it's a bit more actually standing in the mirror and saying to yourself, like, for example, me, like, Ben, I love you, I really love you. And that can sound a little bit silly when you start off with doing that. But what I've started to find very quickly is that by actually making just a bit of time every day to do these things, particularly even just having the mental loop of I love myself, I love myself, I love myself, just having that go around in my head all the day, it does actually deal with a lot of the negative mental loops of not being good enough or not being worthy. A lot of those kinds of things where we say, oh God, I'm stupid, for not having enough friends. That I love myself loop starts to take over a lot more, and that I really find has helped me feel a lot more positive in the last couple of weeks, and particularly on those days when you will have days when stuff happens, you're able to put things into perspective a lot more and think, I love myself, I'm okay, I'm safe. You kind of have those mindsets, and they're much more empowering thoughts to be, and it can really help you tackle some of those bad feelings that you might be having. And that's kind of tip number 2. There are obviously more practical things you can do as well. So for me, this really revolves around perhaps just finding some hobbies or practical things. So like for me, going to the gym, I go to the gym most days of the week, and I have been doing that for many months. The gym is my kind of way of just, keeping yourself physically fit, but also you get a lot of mental health benefits from that as well. And that's not going to be what everybody wants to do, but, find something for yourself. It could be going for a walk. It might just be taking a nice bath. It might be reading a book, whatever it is that you can find for yourself, find that thing and really put the time into that. That real act of loving yourself will make you feel a lot better. And then point number 3 is kind of just acknowledge all the successes that you do have right now in your life. And even though my social life isn't 100% the way I want it to be, that doesn't mean that other areas of my life are necessarily too bad. So yeah, I might be struggling in social life and relationships, but look at my work life, I'm doing pretty well there. I've got a good job, I've got a very supportive boss, the company I work for is really good, and yeah, I get to go and travel around different sites around the UK and see things, so I'm quite happy with that job. It's well paid, get flexible working, so yeah, it's a great job. And that was all attributed to my success doing my apprenticeship. So there's definitely a lot to shout about there, and I'm sure many of you guys watching this video, or ladies, or whatever you identify as, will have the same thing. You'll all have something about your lives that you can say, actually, you know what, I've done really well there, and I am blooming good enough, and I can do it. Everybody will have something about your life, and I guarantee there will be something about your life. You may not quite see it, but there will be something that you've done that is brilliant, and you should praise yourself for it. So maybe just find that thing, even if it's just the studying you're doing, the job you have, having achieving something. If you've gone and done well in school, for example, you've done something worthwhile in life. And that's what I would say, is just really be gentle with yourself and acknowledge those successes, and that will help you start to feel a bit better about yourself. So that's kind of my aim for 2023 going forward. And obviously, if the thing with friendships starts to develop, then obviously I'll share this journey. I am starting to get a bit more involved in the meetups and stuff, and I will share that experience on the channel as I go along, and hopefully people might pick up things from me and how I'm doing. But yeah, I hope this kind of gives you a bit of an update of how things are going, how I want to go this year. And again, if it does inspire anybody, great. If not, I just hope it helps, really. But yeah, no, Happy New Year, and say thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.